guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Smile with Prachi. This is Prachi. Now, a lot of you might have noticed last week I didn't release a video on Saturday. It actually went live on Sunday. That's because I lost my phone. But here's the thing that I really want to talk to you all about, okay? So for the longest time, I have been this person who very confidently, with a lot of pride, okay, I have said this to my friends, family, over and over again, that I am not addicted to my phone. Okay, I'm just not addicted to my phone. I'm not one of those people. It's been a matter of pride for me. But that day when I actually lost my phone, and then for the next 2 days I didn't have a phone, okay, because we were traveling, we were shooting, there was barely any time. It just didn't happen, okay. So for the next 2 days I was actually without my phone after losing my phone. That's when I realized, oh my God, how addicted I am. You know, I have this habit every 15-20 minutes I'll just take out my phone to check my WhatsApp. I'll take out my phone to play some game. I'll take out my phone to see what's happening on Instagram. Now, don't get me wrong, phones are a necessity, okay? I'm not someone who'll hate on phones, on cell phones at all. It's got your maps, it's got all your contacts, it's got your food delivery apps, it's got everything. But at what point does the need become an addiction? To a point where you wake up every morning and the first thing you do is you reach out for your phone because you need to see what time it is. And then before you know it, you're already scrolling through Instagram even though you're still in bed. And I think this happens to most of us, right? So for the next 2 days, every time I reached out for my phone and I realized I didn't have my phone, that was when I was able to make that mental connect and tell myself, Prachi, you were just looking for your phone 2 minutes back. And during those 2 days, I was working at a more optimal level because I had nothing else to distract me. I was able to appreciate, like since I was traveling, I was able to appreciate what's just outside my car window a lot better and a lot of small things. But I think going forward every month, I would definitely want to take out one entire day without my cell phone. Every month, just one day. Because I feel that without your phone, without that addiction, you can connect with yourself, you can connect with the world around you so much more better. So let me ask you guys a very important and a very interesting question here. Do you think you're also addicted to your phone? And if yes, do you think you'll be able to do this? Take out one entire day every month without your phone to just connect better with yourself, the people around you, the world around you. Do you think that's something you can do? I think I can. It's going to be very, very hard, but I really do want to, which is why I think I can. So let's see. All right, so starting with the first writer of the day. Let's call our first writer of the day phone. Okay. All right. So, sorry. Let's call our first writer of the day phone. That's the fake name that we are giving. So, phone says, Hi Prachi. I'm a 24-year-old girl working at a top MNC earning well. However, at home one wouldn't believe how pathetic my life is. My dad is an alcoholic. He has been one since a long time now. Every other night, he will get drunk, sometimes even hurl abuses at me and my mom. Once every few months, things will get escalated and he will start punching and pushing and beating my mom. This happened again last night and well, I tried to step in to control the fight, but he hit me too. This morning, I talked to my mom for like the 100th time that maybe it's time to move out and leave my dad alone. I earn enough to take care of my mom and lead a dignified life away from him. But for some reason, my mom continues to stay with him. She worries what the world would say, sometimes even justifies his abuse. Prachi, if it was just for me, I would have left this hell long, long ago. But how can I leave my mom with this monster of a dad? I feel so fed up of my dad and honestly, in a way, even of my mom for being so stupid about her husband. Can't she see what it is doing to her? How can she be so worried about the society that she would much rather die here than live with her daughter in peace? Living in this house is unbearable, Prachi. Please help me find a way out. Phone, unfortunately what you're going through is so common. I get hundreds of letters every day from girls, boys in similar situations. And here's what I want to tell you all, okay? Not just you phone, but for anybody who's watching this video right now in a similar situation. That there are two things you need to understand, okay? Your mom, in this case your mom, who is suffering from the abuse. This happens to a lot of people who have been through abuse for years and years. It kind of becomes normal for them. I'm not saying that she's enjoying the abuse or that she's okay with it. No, it hurts her. But at some level, it has become normal for her. It's something that she expects to happen. In fact, psychologically speaking, people who have been through abuse for a really, really long time, sometimes when they're taken away from that abusive situation, can even find it hard to adjust with the normal world. They're still expecting that abuse to happen, so they're always on their toes. They will start the fight without realizing. They will look for that abuse. A lot of people, I'm sorry, I'm deviating from the topic a little bit here, but since we're talking about psychology, let's just learn a few things here in the process. A lot of times we say that, for example, this girl ends up only with the bad boys because she has daddy issues. This girl seeks out the wrong kind of boys, for example. There's a possibility that this girl seeks the wrong kind of people. This girl seeks out the bad boys actually because of daddy issues. Because she has lived in a household, in an environment where things have always been so hard and so abusive that she naturally gravitates towards people who will satisfy that natural urge for her. For her, that is a normal way of living. That abuse, that hatred, that anger. Is she happy? No. Which is why she needs therapy, which is why she needs people to help her. But this is how her brain has started functioning. The same thing is happening with your mom. She finds it hard to separate from your dad. And to be very honest, I do believe that if she's saying that she's worried about the society, that's possibly true as well. Because in our Indian society, especially even today, women are treated very differently once they have separated or divorced from their husbands, especially from your mother's and father's generation. So maybe she really is worried. Should she be worried? Absolutely not. She should live her life on her own terms. But that's something you cannot explain to her right now. Okay? So let me just, let me just say this to you, first things first. You cannot heal at a place where you got hurt. Okay? You have yourself been through a lot. And if you want to really take a step forward, the first thing to do is to step out of this house yourself. Okay? Take a separate apartment very close to your parents' house, where your parents are living, very, very close, probably in the same society, in the same building, as close as you possibly can. Okay? There is a reason why I'm suggesting this. Once you have moved out, ask your mom to help you. Tell her, mom, I need some help setting up this place. So your mom starts coming to your place, visiting you as often as possible. Tell her, mom, I'm so sorry, I was so busy, I couldn't prepare lunch. Can you help me with that? She'll come over to your place, she'll prepare lunch, or maybe she'll get something from home. So the next time your mom and dad have a mad, crazy fight, just tell your mom, why don't you come and stay with me for the night? It's not like she's leaving her husband, she's just staying with her daughter for the night. So again, that's another transition your mother makes. Gradually, your mother reaches a point where even though she is not willing to leave her husband and live separately with the daughter, she knows that she has an alternate place to go to. Right? So next time when the hurt and the abuse and the fights and all of those things happen, she will reach out to you, she will come to you, and she'll be much safer. As for you, since you have left that house, your own healing can begin. And I would definitely recommend that you go for therapy, because I mean, it's so amazing that all you have talked about is your mother and your mother's suffering, but I'm sure it must have been very, very hard for you to grow up in that kind of an environment. You need therapy. You need someone to help you out. Moving on to the next writer of the day. So the first writer we had called her Phone. The next writer we are going to call this writer Letter. Okay, Letter. Letter says, Hi Prachi. I am a 26-year-old woman in love with a man who is 28. We are dating since 4 years. To begin with, he really is a very good human being. He has been with me through and through, never asked for anything. Even physical intimacy, this was something I wanted first. He has been good, loyal, and very truthful. When I first met him, he was already dating some other girl. Regardless, we both couldn't help falling in love. He didn't want to leave her though. He, in fact, was very happy with her. We got into a relationship anyway, with the other girlfriend not having any idea of what's been going on. She still has no clue, though she did doubt on him on multiple occasions. Coming to the present, he is technically in love with both of us. Quite honestly, this makes me a little insecure sometimes, but not much. since this is how things have been since the beginning. After all, I signed up for it with him being totally honest about it. I am okay with never getting married either, as long as he is in my life. Which is why he has decided to get married to her, facing a lot of pressure from his own family and from her as well. Now, I just want him in my life, and the way things are for now works well, to be honest. However, as their marriage date gets closer, I started to wonder if this has all gone too far. Or is this something we can keep up with? Like, what happens once they are a married couple? What happens with kids in the mix? I fear being sidelined. Only my best friend knows about this, and she says I'm living in a fantasy world. Is that true? And the burning question, is it possible to be in love with two people at the same time? Later, there are a lot of things I want to share with you here. Okay, a lot of things I want to share with you here. Now, you know I love facts, I love science, I love psychology. So let's just get a few facts out of the way. I know a lot of people are not going to like me for saying this, but these are actual scientific facts published in papers. Okay, love is a biological chemical reaction, right? And we human beings are not designed for monogamy. Naturally speaking, we are not designed to be with one person. It has been designed culturally. Marriages have been designed culturally speaking because it made sense for the family, especially for the child, right? So what are the facts? It's a biological chemical reaction, okay? We are not actually designed for monogamy. So to answer your question, can a person be in love with two people at the same time? A lot of experts say yes, it is possible. But can we verify that? It's very hard because it's something that's frowned upon and it's not something that you see around a lot, right? A person being in love with two people, really being in love with two people, romantic love, is not something that you see a lot. So we can't really verify this. But there are a lot of experts that say that yes, you can be in love with two people genuinely. Keeping all of that aside, I also want to mention a few other facts. Falling in love is also a choice. It's biological, chemical reaction, but after a point, it's also a choice. Everything that I do as a human being is ultimately my choice, right? I am married. I love my husband. If tomorrow I am to meet a man who I really get along with well, it's amazing, it's fantastic. We can't stop talking. We have a great time together. I will still choose to be with my husband and not have an affair with this other man. That's a choice that I am making. And I will be very careful of the interactions we have. Sure, we are having fun, but I will keep that distance. I will keep that distance. And that is a choice that I'm making. And that's a choice that most people choose to make when they are in relationships, in committed relationships. The guy you are dating has not made that choice. He has made that choice to step out of his boundaries and have another relationship. Okay? That's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is, very honestly, like I always say, if there are consenting adults doing things that work for them, as long as it's not harming anybody, as long as it's not harming you, it's fine. Who am I to judge? Do whatever you want to do behind closed doors or even out in the open. If it's not harming anyone or if it's not a nuisance for anyone, then who am I to judge? Live your life. But here's the problem with your scenario. This is not all about consenting adults. You have given your consent. Your boyfriend has his consent. But what about that other girl? She's being lied to. In her opinion, if she gets to know about your relationship, she will consider that cheating. She will consider that as a betrayal. And she is about to marry this guy. She deserves to know the truth. Marriage is a huge commitment. It's the biggest commitment you'll make in your life. People often don't realize this, We see marriage as a social obligation a lot of times because that's how we are raised for most part of it, especially in our country. But it's a huge obligation. Everything that you do will be tied to who you're married to after a while. It does happen. And I'm a very independent woman. Even in spite of that, I say this. Simple things like how I plan my finances will depend on what me and my husband, what our future goals are, not just my goals. When something good happens, my husband is the first person I tell this to. When something bad happens, he's the first person I reach out to. Where we live, where we go, what we do, everything. our social life. Most of our friends are our friends, not my friends or his friends, but our friends. Weekend after weekend, we spend together with the same group of friends because they are our friends. So many things change once you're married. She is getting into that commitment with a man who, in her opinion, is cheating on her. She doesn't know about it, but that's how she would see it. What is happening with that girl is absolutely wrong. So I don't think we should be asking the question that whether what he's doing to you is right or not, or whether you are in the right place or not. A very important question we also need to ask is whether what's happening to her is right or not. And to be honest, I don't want to stir things up. Maybe he really is a very good guy. But for me, it is a bit of a red flag that he is willing to lie to one person who he claims to love so much. He is cheating on her. In her opinion, she is being cheated on, so I'll use the word cheating on her. If he can cheat on her, can he cheat on you as well? Maybe, maybe not. That's a question for you to answer. But if I was you, I would be very, very careful. And yes, once kids come along, there is a very high probability you will be sidelined. You will start feeling like the third wheel. When you call him up and say, hey, it's Saturday evening, can we catch up? And he'll be like, no, our families are coming, they are visiting us over. You'll be like, oh, it's Diwali. Do you think maybe we can hang out for a couple of hours? He'll be like, no, but I have kids. I need to play with them. I need to decorate the house with my wife. I'm sorry. It will happen. So yes, there is a possibility you will start feeling sidelined. So guys, that's all I want to share with the two writers of the day. While the second scenario is not that common, to be very honest, the first situation is so common. In this case, the writer was a grown-up young woman who already has a job, who could easily move out. I know a lot of my writers are not that lucky yet. A lot of you are still teenagers and you still need to live with your parents. You're still dependent on your father, even though he's alcoholic, or your mother who's an alcoholic. It can happen both the ways, right? There are a few things I want to share with you. Number one, don't think it is your responsibility to fix your parent. You're still a child. You're just a teenager. And quite honestly, fixing an alcohol addiction is not easy, especially for a child, because chances are that when you go to your parents with any opinion, they discard it half the time anyway. So what are the chances that they will actually listen to you if you say, oh, please give up smoking, or please give up, drinking? They will not. It's possible, you can try, but it's very, very hard. Okay? It's not your job, it's not your responsibility, and it's not your fault. If fights like these happen, and you feel like you need to protect yourself, don't fight back. When your father or your mother, when they are in that state, when they are completely taken over by the alcohol, you cannot fight them back. It's much better, it's much safer for you to lock yourself inside the room. Okay? Run away from that situation instead of fighting back with your parent. One of you could get very, very badly hurt, and you obviously don't want that. Right? And number three, if the alcohol addiction is very, very bad, like in this case, the father is the alcoholic and he's abusing the mother. If it's very, very bad, and if the mother completely refuses to, take a stand or step out, and if you're also in danger, you can try to take help from really close family members or really close relatives, friends, people who are really close to your parents. Like your mother's mother, your father's father, your grandparents, your, people like that. Or if you have an elder sibling who is living away, maybe you can move in with them. Things like that. Okay, but remember, protecting yourself physically always comes first. And then, of course, you need to be very, very strong. Take a stand when required. In this case, maybe getting help from people who are very close to your parents. Okay. So yes guys, that's all I want to share with the two writers of the day. Thank you so much for watching this video. Yes, I got my hair cut. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great weekend everybody. Be careful, stay safe, and have a lot of fun. Bye guys. Bye. Bye.